From the Evening Standard in London, I'm Hamish MacBain and welcome to Who Wants to Be a London Mayor?
We'll see, won't we? I want to expose the fact that he'll do a consultation and then take absolutely no notice of it whatsoever.
Yes, I'm really proud that I was the mayor who froze TfL fares between 2016 and 2021. What Londoners want to see is a mayor doing his job he's required to do by statute.
A series of special episodes of the Standard podcast focusing on London's bitterly contested mayoral election.
The majority of people have already said several times they do not want this, and he's doubled down and he's ignored it.
The evidence is clear in relation to the consequences of air pollution, of toxic air. Around 4,000 premature deaths a year in our city. Children with stunted lungs forever. Adults with a whole host of health issues from asthma to cancer, dementia to heart disease.
And I pledge that I will stop the Ulez expansion on day one of my mayoralty.
Ulez. It was once just a random collection of letters, but over the past few years, as climate change warnings get more and more pressing, and as more and more data is collected about the capital's air quality, it's becoming one of the biggest issues facing London. A new fine-based method of encouraging Londoners to swap their older, more polluting cars and vans with newer, cleaner options. It's led to drivers taking matters into their own hands, holding anti-Ulez rallies calling for an end to it, and literally vandalising the cameras designed to enforce it. So I've come to Marylebone Road, one of London's most polluted streets, to find out more about the air pollution situation. This road carries 80 to 90,000 vehicles a day and has its air quality monitoring site, which measures everything from carbon dioxide levels to nitrogen to sulphur and more. Surely the information from this site can give us the strongest evidence yet of just how dirty London's air really is, and therefore just how necessary Ulez really is. Joining me now to tell us for sure is Professor Frank Kelly, an expert in air pollution research from Imperial College London. So, hello Frank. This is quite incredible, this place we're in. Maybe you could just start by telling us where we are and what goes on here to the untrained ear.
Okay, the place that you're at is on Marylebone Road, just opposite Madame Tussauds. And we're standing in a big metal container. You can see it's lined with wood on the outside to try and make it a bit prettier. But within this unit, which is an air quality super site, there's about £2 million worth of equipment, which is basically telling us everything we need to know about what we're breathing at this location.
What would you say is the biggest problem relative to pollution that's facing the capital at the moment?
Well, our biggest problem up until recently was nitrogen dioxide. So this is a gas which is produced by diesel vehicles. And that was really, really high. At one point, we were measuring the highest concentration of nitrogen dioxide in the world on Oxford Street. And if you remember Oxford Street, it's only got buses and taxis, and they were all diesel a decade ago. Now, that gladly has changed now, and NO2 concentrations have fallen dramatically. The biggest problem we have, because of the medical evidence, is really these tiny particles, which we're all breathing in.
And, I mean, Ulez obviously is a huge thing that's dominating the conversation, especially regarding the London mayoral elections, which is what we're here to discuss. You'd presumably say Ulez has been a fantastic thing to do and has helped?
So Ulez was brought in specifically to decrease the emissions of the worst pollutants, that's the PM 2.5 and the NO2. So that meant targeting the older cars and only allowing the newer cars in, which have got much better emission control. So from that point of view, it does what it says on the tin. And as a consequence of that, we've seen the fleet of vehicles that use the city roads changing to be much cleaner as the Ulez matures.
Yeah, but do you understand all the dissent that you've obviously you've got Ulez protesters that we're always reading about and people vandalising the cameras and all that kind of thing. Do you understand to a degree the problems that people have with it?
Yeah, I do. And it's, in many cases, I think it's due to a lack of understanding. I mean, the UK's air quality rules, their limit values, are actually quite lax compared to many other countries, and certainly compared to what the WHO, the World Health Organization, tells us they need to be to protect health. So there is nowhere in London at this point in time which actually meets those WHO guidelines. Now, I don't think a lot of people understand that even if it looks nice and clear outside, that in fact the air that they're breathing will be having an impact on their long-term health.
Yeah, I mean, but you're a fan of Sadiq Khan and what his agenda and stuff, would you say, or not?
Well, I am to a certain extent, because my career is built on understanding the links between breathing poor air quality and poor health. And so I see the terrible consequences of air pollution in our cities, in London and in other big cities. So therefore, I believe that something needs to be done. And that what you have to do is you have to go to the source of those pollutants. And in London, it's traffic. I mean, that is the major source of our problem.
Yeah. And what do you think of the other candidate, Susan Hall? With the prospect of her being London Mayor, would that worry you?
I think other candidates have to look for a difference from the sitting candidate, and clearly Susan Hall has decided that air pollution is not a problem that she wants to deal with, and therefore, unfortunately, if she does get elected, then that is one other thing that Londoners are going to have to deal with, and that is more health problems from the air they're breathing.
So what are those specific issues that air pollution causes?
Well, we used to think that it was just something to do with the lung being damaged. And so if you think of diseases like asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, but then as the research progressed, we realized that these pollutants were actually going farther into the body, into the blood system. So we started worrying about heart disease, diseases of the blood vessels. Then, unfortunately, we found a connection with cognitive decline, so dementia and Alzheimer's. So in fact, all of the diseases which we all hear about, nearly every week, or know someone that's got one, we know now that air pollution is associated with them in some way. And that's not surprising, because we do 3 things to stay alive. We eat some food, about 2 kilograms a day. We drink some fluids, water, beer, whatever, a couple of litres a day. We breathe in 11,000 litres of air every day, not thinking about it even. So just imagine if a small amount of that is polluted, you're taking, every day you're taking pollution into your body.
Let's take a quick ad break. Who Wants to Be a London Mayor will be back in just a moment.